Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and today we are finally going to tackle the topic that I haven't quite done yet. The most hated card, at least currently in Hearthstone, at least it sure feels that way whenever I'm on Twitter, social media, my comments in chat, is Sire Denathrius. We're going to go over why I think it's so hated and what could be changed, or if anything, to maybe make it, well, not so hated. Before we get into that, and something people typically don't hate, are giveaways. Hearthstone pack giveaways, $300 of Hearthstone packs out of my pocket. All you have to do to enter is like and comment in the video in the description below, subscribe to the channel. Winners will be announced this Wednesday, and if we manage to hit 58,000 subscribers, we will unlock a bigger and better giveaway on our road to 60K. So hit that sub button, make me go broke. We're climbing, so thank you guys all for hitting that sub button. One quick shout out, by the way, to Jordan MG, just yesterday, of Hearthstone Jeopardy, featuring myself, Dane, and Rarran. It's a lot of fun, a lot of goofy categories and stuff. I'll link it in the description below. Check it out. It's a lot of fun, and I think you guys will enjoy it. Sire Denathrius, if you're not aware of what this card is a neutral legendary introduced in the latest expansion, Murder Castle Nathria. It's a 10 mana 10/10 neutral. Every class can play it, and its lifesteal, battle cry, deal 5 damage amongst enemies, endlessly infuse 1, deal 1 more. So basically every time a friendly minion dies while you're holding this, the damage escalates further and further, and well, it escalates pretty quickly. And it is one of the most hotly debated and argued about cards currently in the game. And for me, if you don't have to look too much farther than purely the stats as to why this card is driving people up the wall, if you take a look at Sire Denathrius, we're taking a look at Diamond through Legend. This card is in 40% of all standard decks at the moment, with the only other cards more played than him, Theotar the Mad Duke, which we'll talk about is kind of the Denathrius issue in a lot of ways, Bran, which also ties into this, and Prince Renathal, which also kind of ties in. It helps Denathrius get to that late game situation. But if you take a look at Sire Denathrius, 40% of decks, overall deck win rate, like 53%. And when this card comes down, you're dying. So a lot of the times people are going to hate on this card because most of the time they see this card, they blow up. And that's not the most fun experience because it's a really solid finisher. One of the best finishers, if not the best finisher ever in Hearthstone for a neutral legendary. Throughout the history of Hearthstone, if you look through and look at finishers, neutral legendaries, there's not a lot of them, and they're not super impactful the way Denathrius has been. You have Malygos as one of the big staples. It was utilized mostly by Druid, where you slam Malygos down, burst your opponent down, but you had to combine it with spells or set it up with a discount. You had to work for it. You almost always had to work for your Malygos. You have both of the Cthuns, the original OG one, which rarely was a finisher, but it could be, especially in Druid, when you had like Aviana Kun and Brand shenanigans. And then you had Cthulhu the Shattered from Darkmoon Faire, which again could be a finisher. 30 damage, at least back in the old days of Hearthstone before Renathal existed, would be an OTK on an empty board and no armor. Both of these cards you had to work really hard for. With the old Cthulhu, you had to play minions or spells that would buff it, as well as this Cthulhu, you had to shuffle 4 spells into your deck, play them all, shuffle the Cthulhu into your deck, then draw it. Again, you had to really work for these win conditions. The same goes for probably one of the more iconic finishers as well in Mecha'thun, 10 mana 10/10 Death Rattle. If you have no cards in your hand, deck battlefield, destroy the enemy hero. So you had to go through your entire deck, destroy the entire board, and then you could win the game. It's literally a win the game finisher, and again, a card you really have to work hard for. But Sire Denathrius, you really don't have to work that hard for it. You just need to play minions or token generators and buff it up, and it amps up so quickly that it will often kill your opponent, but not by itself. This is important to note. When someone plays Sire Denathrius against you, it is very rare that the one Denathrius kills you. And to me, that's what kind of exacerbates the issue, is that Bran Bronzebeard was added in the latest core set, and as a result, Bran and Sire, when like a Guff deck where you have like 20 mana, is just going to kill your opponents. When you have all these these token generators, like a Scales of Onyxia, like a Flipper Friends, like a Raid Boss Onyxia. All these cards just amplify, and they're all cards you want to run anyways, right? And Sire Denathrius is so easy to ramp up. He's seen play in almost like half the meta decks in the game. We take a look at like top 1000 Legend, and you just scroll through and you see a lot of decks do run it. You have, of course, Ramp Druid. Curse Warlocks have been running it. Spooky Mage runs it. Again, certain Imp Warlocks have seen Control Shamans because of the Bolner and Macaw interaction, which is also really busted. Plenty of other decks, and it's not even just a standard thing. It pops up in Wild, and it's dominant in the arena and duels. All the modes. Denathrius is king, and as a result, you're seeing a lot of complaints about it. So is this a problem? Is it a problem to have a card like this be a finisher in the game? I've always stated I would love more late game, you know, bombs, way to reward late game decks to win games. And the problem I have with it is it's so easy to complete, and it's so dominant that it's forcing a card like Theotar. It's forcing this weird meta. Like when I'm playing standard these days, I feel like every game comes down to, if I'm a Denathrius deck, do they Theotar my Denathrius or do they not? Or do I Theotar their Denathrius? It's becoming this really toxic cat and mouse game where that's why Theotar is one of the most controversial cards. We talked about that in a prior video. It just creates this thing where this win condition is so strong, it's so good that half the decks run it, that it's just creating this weird kind of unfun metagame in a way, at least for me, where it's just too dominant. It's too easy to complete. It's too easy to ramp up into. And then when you have the Kael'thas brand interaction allowing any class, it's a neutral combo, any class in the game can just combo you on 9 mana and do insane damage, and kind of puts that like shelf life on games to always be over potentially by 9. You could always be dead if they're a Denathrius deck and it played some tokens. So for me, I think Sire Denathrius is a cool card. I like the fact that it can win games, it can kill your opponent. I just feel like cheese a brand for me is the main thing, just kind of makes it lame. It makes it a little cheesy. It kills too quickly because of brand. So if I was to change the card, and I would love to hear your guys' takes in the comment, because I'm not sold on nerfing this card quite yet. I feel like it could have its expansion to shine, but again, it's wearing out its welcome pretty quickly, and this is a card I would imagine if it stays top tier powerful, will probably get nerfed before the next expansion runs out, because first off, they want to sell the new packs, and second, it's going to get very boring if every game is just decided by Denathrius or Theotar stealing Denathrius and all of that. So if I was to change Denathrius, there's 3 kind of lines of thought I have seen that I could reasonably argue for. First is just eliminating the original damage of it straight up. It doesn't deal any damage until you start infusing. Take that initial 5 damage away. I've also seen the suggestion, I made this one myself, of endlessly infused 2, where it takes twice as long to ramp up. So then Bran Denathrius isn't quite as frustrating because you have to basically double the effect anyways. I feel like that could be more reasonable, but I liked a really elegant solution suggested by Zeddy. Zeddy suggested this. He's been playing a lot of Priest, and as a result, he's losing a lot to this card, and as a result, he's complaining about it. Funny how that works out, right? But yes, I did like this suggestion though, where you would change the card from Battle Cry to at the end of your turn. In some ways, this is a buff. Basically, it would break the abuse of Bran, it would break the abuse of Macaw, it would break the abuse of Kael'thas to an extent, where you play this, and then at the end of your turn, it deals the damage, and it's kind of a buff, because if they don't kill it, it'll do it again, right? Or even in Wild, you could pair it up with Jakari Enchanter and double up its effect. Barokin! What are you thinking, Blizzard? But I think it's a kind of an elegant solution, but at the same time, I love big, cool finishers in the game. I like that it's almost a Reno Jackson in itself, but they kind of just blow up. I think it's a cool card. I do like that everybody got it for free, so at least everybody can play it and do broken stuff with it. But I do see a lot of the complaints, and I think there's some validity to it, and I don't think the card needs to be outright killed, and I don't even know if it needs to be changed quite yet, but I could see these changes possibly happening at some point, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do with Sire Denathrius, the most hated card in Hearthstone? Clickbait. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.